I'd like to talk about sex, if I may. They say that there are 3 things that you should never talk about on stage to put your audience at ease. Religion, politics, and sex. Well, I'm going to talk about sex, so let's just all get comfortable with that fact. It's a big deal for me to talk about sex in public because I like having sex with women. And I just feel like not very much is known about that area of life. I mean, I know about it, obviously, because I do it on a regular basis. Not as regular as I might like sometimes, but yeah, I feel like girl on girl sits in this strange kind of mystical realm as far as public perception goes. And by that I mean you don't really see it on the telly as much as you might see other combinations of intimacy, say heterosexual sex or guy on guy sex. And what that does to you as a queer woman is it makes you feel like your sexuality is the way that you like to do it. I don't know, like it doesn't really exist somehow. You know it exists because you do it, but the fact that you don't see it reflected back at you anywhere makes you feel, I don't know, something that I haven't quite found the words for yet, but I can describe it to you. Okay? Still with me? Good. So, I've had some sex in my life. As I say, I like to have sex with women, mostly. I have had sex with men. I've dipped my nib in the hetero ink. Or had a nib dipped, I suppose would be a more appropriate imagery. But it never really went very well. I just prefer it with women. That's just the way I am. Which is good news, for my wife. Well, she's not my wife yet, actually. We're getting married later this year. So I'm just trying out the language. We're not even getting married, actually. We're getting, it's a civil partnership ceremony, so I'm not really sure what the language is there. Civvy? No, CP? I'll probably just go with wife, but anyway. So yeah. I've always been gay, I think, since I was born. I mean, I didn't really notice at first. I mean, you don't, do you, when you... But then you grow up a bit, and you really do. And yeah, it's great. I first had sex with a girl called... Oh no, I can't tell you, actually. Well, because it was a secret. I promised I'd never tell anyone. Well, she was one of the popular girls, you see. She was head girl, in fact. Yeah, I know. Don't know how I pulled that off. It was pretty hot, actually. We used to meet up on a Thursday afternoon when we should have been in religious studies. Never talk about religion, because I can't, because I wasn't there to learn about it. And yeah, we used to get a taxi to her house and go and have these, beautiful early sexual encounters. I'd never been in a taxi before. I was a child. My mother still drove me around and picked me up from everywhere, but this girl, she was like this Chanel No. 5 and lacy bra wearing 16 going on 21-year-old. But I was like this braless, slightly genderless baseball cap enthusiast. As fragrant as I ever got was to nick a squirt of my brother's Lynx Africa from the downstairs bathroom before I left the house in the morning. Maybe that was the appeal. I mean, we've all seen those adverts. Come on. Anyway, we were girlfriends for quite a while, actually, but it was all a secret, you see, because, shame. And then when we broke up, whatever that means when you're a child, it was devastating, obviously, and she was upset about it too, but not so much about the breakup, I don't think, but more about the fact that now I might tell everybody about the two of us, to get back at her for mangling my heart. I think she actually said something to me once like, now you're going to tell everyone and you're going to write about me one day in your autobiography. So sure was she that one day I would be famous. Now, I know it's only the 3 of you streaming this right now and, a camera person, but still, a promise is a promise, so. But yeah, we were having sex on this regular basis, and I'd never seen anybody naked before. But suddenly there she was, all nipples and lips and vaginas. Well, 1 vagina. Well, 2 between us, I suppose. And I had to figure out what to do with all this stuff, which I did. I mean, it's a lot easier when you've got the same stuff. And I have gone on to have more sex like that, and I think I've got better at it. I mean, you just do, don't you? But I can't understand why, after 20 years that I've been doing it, it still doesn't feel particularly normalised in popular culture. It's still this kind of, this unexplored territory. Queer women and lesbians, they are the least represented key minority group in film and TV. And as I was explaining before, that kind of does something to you. It makes you feel like you don't exist somehow. Like your tribe doesn't see you, doesn't acknowledge you. So then you don't write your screenplay or your book because you think that nobody wants to hear about you. So it's this vicious circle because then we don't see those stories. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here by, writing stuff myself. And I'm trying to do it without being shitty about it because, as we all know, if you're a woman and you start to get shitty about something, you're just branded as angry and people tend to stop listening to you because it's not very pretty. So I'm trying to be friendly about it, and I just wondered if, the five of us could maybe have a look at it and see if we come up with any answers. I mean, I think we can probably all agree on a sort of fairly strong kind of starter notion about what's going on. The world's run by men, and men love their penises. So if you're a woman who more or less rejects the penis in any way, I just feel like society, the patriarchy, it doesn't really know what to do with you, or how to even communicate with you, or how to even hear you. I mean, as a society, we're not great with female sexuality generally, are we? Just the concept of it, preference aside, we see it all through the male gaze. And I know the conversation is changing as the generations advance. The sexual revolution, the availability of the pill, great. But I don't know, I just still feel that female sexuality generally is still measured, perceived, monitored, owned by men. All the major fashion labels, all the major makeup labels, film studios, magazines, fashion houses, is all, in the main, operated by men. So it stands to reason that there's probably still quite a long way to go in terms of empowerment and ownership of female sexuality by females through to its core. The only sort of space it can operate in currently is as a commodity, controlled by men. And I don't know, I'm no social scientist, I'm just an armchair observer, and I do invite any and all conversation that might sprout from here. I'm just gassing. But if what I just said is true in some way, then female sexuality, eroticism, desire between two women, that is so far away from anything that the mainstream can really have any genuine investment in. So, now I'm actually going to talk about sex between women. Because I think we really need to actually get the details out of it there. Out there for some of this stuff to change, for it to be normalised. So I've always suspected that the reason girl on girl is this mysterious thing in the minds of the masses and not really producible from a kind of storytelling, empathy-evoking point of view that might be made into a TV show or a film that the general public might get obsessed with is because, well, as many of you know, in heterosexual sex, there's an appendage and a void into which the appendage goes. So the roles there are quite clearly defined, aren't they? We all know where we're headed. We know what we're going to do, and we do that thing until the guy ejaculates. And if she's lucky, the girl has an orgasm. But with two women, there's these two voids. There's no appendage in sight. Well, unless you want that. I mean, I have a penis. Mine's blue. and dishwasher safe, which is more than can be said for many penises out there. But what I'm saying is, I guess the heteronormative masses, they can't really relate to my type of pleasure from within the framework of their own pleasure, appendage and void. And that's why, in my armchair opinion, that guy sex has kind of got through the net in that regard. And we have these amazing empathetic stories being broadcast to Jim and Jane Jones in their living rooms like it's a sin because, it's a celebration of the penis. But they don't really know what two voids could look like as sex. Despite the fact that the clitoris, which is the way that most women experience the most amount of sexual pleasure, actually exists on the outside of the void. You don't really need an appendage to get going with that thing. But anyway, I think it is changing, to be fair. I read something recently. I think it was an opinion poll on Instagram or something weighty like that. And the question that had been posed was about how people get jiggy these days, basically, how they get off with their partners. What makes them orgasm, basically. And a lot of people in heteronormative relationships said that the way they get off with each other is through mutual masturbation. Over sex. This was their choice. And if you think about it, that can only be as a direct result of the YouPorn generation. The first intimacy we really experience at a concentrated level these days is with ourselves in front of pornography. That's how we learn about our physical selves. That's how we learn about our orgasms. So you add a partner into that frame, and that may well be the way you choose to get off with each other. So sex is this fascinating, evolving, shared human experience, and rightly so should it evolve, especially as the world opens up and accepts the existence of trans people and gender fluidity and sexual fluid preference. You really don't know what junk the person you find yourself fancying is going to have when you get down to it. So, and I see no reason why us queer women with our two voids should exist outside that conversation. So that's why I'm here. So, sex between two women. The facts. And, of course, I'm not talking for everybody. I'm not talking for all queer women everywhere. So maybe I should actually change that subtitle to sex that I have had with other women. My wife and I, we take it in turns. Don't worry, I'll expand. As I often do. As a woman, it takes quite a bit of concentration and effort to have an orgasm. You've got to feel present in yourself. You've got to feel at ease, confident, and sexy. It's basically all in the head. All in this head. So, as a woman sleeping with another woman, if you really want to allow room for your partner to come, you can't also be concerned with your own orgasm at the same time. But personally, just for me, I can't keep my mind on the job, technique and aim, and also remain in the same headspace required for me to, by all means, go for a 69, fucking work on each other for a bit if you want, but when it actually comes down to the business of orgasm, you're much better off just standing to one side and just being a bit generous and just giving to each other. And that's the one thing I learned from the sex with Fiona all those years. That's not her name. Okay, and her surname is not Reeves. Well, her maiden name is not Reeves because she is not now married to an orthodontist and living with 2 children somewhere near Birmingham. And that is not the facts. That's really not her name. And apologies to any Fiona Reeves I may or may not have had sex with. I'd rather end this piece on a joke, but my friend who I've been working on this with said that I should probably end it on a hopeful note, something that just makes us all think a bit and makes us all look to the future and how we might encourage conversations with each other about the ways we can keep opening up and normalizing all of the wonderful types of legal, consensual sex there is out there. We should be proud of the things that turn us on and comfortable to talk about them and stay connected to that side of ourselves, whatever consensual, legal space that occupies. So thank you for seeing me.